coming up in today's newscast. The IDF strikes a number of Hamas targets in the Gaza Strip. An Israeli couple is found lost in the desert after 2 days. And get ready because the World Stamp Championship is heading to Israel. All right, Israeli jets have just struck a number of Hamas targets in the Gaza Strip. The airstrikes hit an underground Hamas terror tunnel, as well as 2 naval vessels belonging to the terror group. The IDF says these measures are in response to yesterday's incident on the Gaza border, in which a group of Palestinians infiltrated the security fence and set fire to an abandoned IDF post. The army has issued a statement condemning Hamas for continuing to funnel its resources into terror against the Jewish state. This round of airstrikes follows Israel's policy that Hamas is to blame for any and all aggression in the Strip. Palestinians have also continued to fly firebombs over the border using homemade kites, often setting Israeli fields ablaze during an already dry summer season. Still, this unrest in the Strip has boiled over in recent months, climaxing with the opening of the new U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem last week. The Hamas-sponsored March of Return protests along the border sparked a 6-week epidemic of attempted terror attacks and infiltration along the border. Hamas allegedly scaled back the violence in exchange for a softened retaliation from the IDF. This latest exchange of fire is a reminder that those tensions have clearly still yet to calm. Yesterday, the Palestinians officially appealed to the ICC International Court to investigate Israel for war crimes. They claim the IDF willingly committed these crimes during the recent clashes along the Gaza border. Israel has defended its conduct throughout this difficult period, citing countless attempts by Palestinians to overrun or destroy the security barrier. Well, it looks like the United States may be backing up Israel yet again on this one, and ILTV's Brett Allen Smith is here with the story.
Right, so thank you, Natasha. So the White House is now considering measures to punish the Palestinians for pursuing litigation at the ICC. And this is a precedent that actually was already set up by the U.S. law back in 2015 under the Obama administration. Now that law states that if the Palestinians do prosecute Israel in the international courts, then the sitting U.S. president has 90 days to decide whether or not the Palestinians are still willfully pursuing peace with Israel. And if not, this subjects them to an array of possible punishments, and the biggest of those would be the expelling of PLO's office in Washington and the closing of the envoy's facilities in D.C. altogether.
Well, relations between the United States and the Palestinians have obviously deteriorated over the last few months.
Yes.
The Palestinians no longer see the U.S. as a fair mediator in peace talks anyway, after President Trump decided to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital. But the White House has chided them for actually stepping away from the negotiating table altogether. Is Trump likely to take this next step and close the PLO's office?
I mean, I think that's a very possible scenario, really, because keep in mind, this is an administration that's already slashed almost half its funds to the Palestinians in recent months, and the PA also recalled its envoy from Washington last week to protest the opening of the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem, as you said. So honestly, I doubt that there's really much consequence left at this point, in Trump's mind anyway, if he goes ahead and executes this law. Now, the only wild card here is that next month, Trump probably is going to roll out that Middle East peace plan. And if he wants even a chance for that deal to see the light of day, he's going to need every scrap of diplomacy left to get the Palestinians back to the table.
Well, the bigger question for now really is is whether or not the ICC is going to end up prosecuting Israel, because the Palestinians, have of course appealed for this in the past. But as far as an actual indictment for war crimes goes, that would be a huge decision.
Yeah, I mean, hard to say, because you're right. This isn't the first time that the ICC has considered investigating Israel. I mean, Israel's conduct in the 2015 Gaza war was under scrutiny, along with the construction of Jewish settlements throughout the West Bank. But full-on charges for war crimes right now for this would be a very serious precedent. Now, the courts are generally pretty slow to make a decision like this because, of course, they have to carefully consider all kinds of evidence surrounding these Gaza border clashes, and considering that this was a situation where over 50 Hamas militants were among the many Palestinians who were killed in those clashes. It's a very gray area, but then again, given the outrage that we've seen over Israel's response to those border clashes, this could be the opportunity that the ICC was kind of waiting for all along to push for those charges.
Well, Israel is certainly prepared to defend itself in court, as it has already done so in the public eye, if that should happen. But thank you for joining us with more information, Brett.
Of course.
After the nearly 2-month-long march of return protests along the Gaza border, Turkish President Erdogan has ramped up his anti-Israel rhetoric. He has expelled the Israeli ambassador from Istanbul, as we all know, and is comparing Israelis to Nazis while calling on the international community to investigate Israel for war crimes. Joining me now in the studio to look into the future of Israeli-Turkey relations is Dr. Chai Eitan Cohen Yanagokak, an expert on Turkey from the Moshe Dayan Center at Tel Aviv University.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
All right, so Turkey was the first Muslim country to recognize Israeli independence. How did we get to where we are from there?
Okay, it was 1949, and as you said, Turkey was the first country. But until then, I mean, there were so many changes in Turkey. We had some secular governments, but later in 2002, the Justice and Development Party of Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who is considered as an Islamist party, came to power in Turkey. And after let's say 2008, 2009, after he began to get rid of the Turkish army, which was considered as a natural ally of the Israeli Defense Forces in Israel, so he began to, let me say, implement his own agenda. And as a result, we began to see a deterioration of the Israeli-Turkish relations. And it was gradual, but it was very obvious. And of course, we had this normalization process, but this normalization process was not a genuine one because he always attached to the quality of the relations with Israel with the Palestinian question.
Right.
So that was the
that's what I'd like to ask you about.
problem.
You know, is Erdogan using Israel as a punching bag to gain favor with other Muslim countries, perhaps, or does he believe the things that are coming out of his mouth?
It's not only Israel. Whenever there is a friction between a Christian country or, let me say, a non-Muslim country with Turkey, you name it. It can be Russia, it can be United States, it can be China, it can be Holland, it can be Germany. So he's observing, he's getting his surveys, and he understands that whenever there is a friction, he's getting more support at home. So he's trying to translate this anger to support because since we are approaching to the Turkish elections on 24th of June, so he's a little worried. Let me say, just today, Turkey is experiencing a very harsh economic crisis. Today, dollar just faced 4.9 Turkish liras. For more than a decade, Turkey did not experience such a low. Yeah.
Well, many within Israel are now calling to just completely end ties with Turkey. Is that the right move? What is the future here?
Okay, so we should understand something. We should wait until these elections. If after the elections, if the Turkish administration will implement new sanctions, like new economic sanctions, as they are saying right now, in order to get the public approval in Turkey, if they will fulfill all of these measures, so we can also talk about more serious steps like the recognition of the Armenian genocide or giving our support to the Kurdistan regional government's independence. So there are too many instruments, but let us not forget, this is a two-way street. If we're gonna have such sanctions, we will also have other sanctions from the Turkey's side.
Yeah.
So in this regard, I really do believe and really do hope that both countries will again come
together
to a common denominator.
Well, we'll see if there's another reconciliation coming down the line here. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, now here is one unbelievable story. An Israeli couple has just been found lost in the middle of the desert. The two hikers in their 30s were missing for 2 days, but luckily they were smart enough to form a massive SOS sign with rocks on the ground that caught the attention of a helicopter passing by. The hikers named Leila and Daniel somehow veered off of the trail while hiking in Nahal Nekarot, which is near the Ramon crater in the Israeli desert. By the time they realized they were lost, it was too late and they had very little water left. The couple was very worried about dehydrating, so they took shelter from the sun by digging holes on either side of a shallow cave and moving back and forth as the sun moved from east to west. They even trapped lizards to eat for food. Leila and Daniel's families realized they were missing when they hadn't heard from the two of them for 2 days. On Tuesday morning, they called rescue services to help look for the couple,
And luckily, Layla and Danny were smart enough to form a massive SOS sign out of rocks they found nearby. And a search and rescue helicopter spotted it just in time. Both were rushed to a Beersheba hospital, and after tests and treatments, they were released healthy and safe.
For decades now, Israeli athletes have faced constant prejudice in sporting events all over the world, particularly in Arab nations where their nation symbols are forbidden to appear. This includes both the Israeli flag and the playing of Israel's national anthem when they win. Well, now Israel's taking this issue to court with a lawsuit, hoping to force Arab countries to give these athletes the same basic freedom as any other athlete in competition.
This lawsuit is being assembled by the Israeli Knesset member Yoel Razvazov, who also happened to represent Israel in the 2004 Summer Olympics in Judoku. And the legal team already includes some big heavy hitters. Leading the team is none other than famous U.S. lawyer and former Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz. New York's former Attorney General Dennis Vacco and attorney John Przhansky will be backing him up. Israeli athletes have long faced hurdles in global sports arenas. Some Arab countries refuse to even let their athletes compete with Israelis, instead forcing them to forfeit the match. In past years, Israelis have won medals in judo at the United Arab Emirates Grand Slam tournament, but they weren't allowed to have their flag or national anthem present at the award ceremony. Even in the chess world, Israeli chess players were blocked last minute from even flying to Saudi Arabia for last year's World Chess Championship. That's why the legal team feels it's finally time for the rest of the world to show Israel the same fairness it gives every other athlete. According to Dershowitz, there's no better place to stop this than in sports, because the vast majority of spectators and participants do not want to see sports politicized. They don't want to see hatred enter into the sporting arena. Many feel this lawsuit is a long time coming and a tragic necessity to correct a very disturbing trend.
Well, you may not want to book your tickets to Israel for the 2019 Eurovision because it looks like the International Song Contest may not actually be held in the country. There are rumors going around that the event is being politicized and may not be held in Jerusalem, even though Israel's Netta Barzilai did take home the big win at this year's Eurovision. Typically, the location of the Eurovision is dictated by the winner from the previous year. In 2017, Portugal won, and in 2018, the Eurovision was held in Portugal. In 2018, Israel won, so the Eurovision is supposed to be held in Israel's capital of Jerusalem in 2019. Well, the Eurovision has just released a tweet advising fans not to go booking their flights just yet because the time and location of the 2019 event has yet to be set. It's not clear if the public statement is suggesting that the Eurovision is reconsidering being held in Israel, but Eurovision spokespeople have declined to provide details on what exactly about the location is in doubt. This is, of course, already causing a stir here in Israel, with Culture Minister Miri Regev and Communications Minister Ayub Kara fighting over which office will be in charge of production if the event even happens. Minister Kara even suggested he would invite Dubai to participate, despite the fact that he doesn't really have the authority to make such a call. The European Broadcasting Authority, which organizes the Eurovision, is apparently very unhappy with the recent remarks by the Israeli ministers, so that could be one of the biggest issues here, or bigger issues here. Either way, Israel is still celebrating its big win with superstar Netta Barzilai. The country clearly just doesn't want to be a political toy. Get it? All right, it's only mid-May, but trust me, it already feels like the middle of summer here in the Holy Land. Unfortunately, the intense summer temperatures are taking a dangerous toll on Israel's water supply. The country has officially been in drought for 6 years running now, and the Water Authority is urging Israelis to do whatever they can to conserve water because Israel is drying out again.
This slogan was used on Israeli TV in the 90s and 2000s when Israeli water levels similarly hit historic and dangerous lows. Unfortunately, severe climate change has forced the campaign to resurrect itself to push Israelis to save every last drop. The situation is so bad that the Water Authority may actually cut off Israelis' water for a few hours here and there. It's not just drinking water that's impacted here, of course. Water supplies in the north are the lowest in nearly a century, taking a punishing toll on Israel's agriculture and natural resources. The levels of the Dead Sea in Israel's Negev have also been diminishing year after year. The painful truth is that this drought isn't balanced by a plentiful rainy season to come. The harsh reality of climate change today means that this situation is only going to get worse and worse, unless humans change the way we impact our environment.
Now, this next story requires a bit of a history lesson. For the last several decades, Taiwan has functioned with its own democracy and national identity after formally separating from China in 1949. But today, the Chinese government is doing everything it can to undo that separation. China has actually just threatened severe consequences if the world's airlines don't recognize Taiwan as part of China, which is why, as of a few days ago, if you book a ticket on Israel's El Al Airlines, you'll find Taiwan curiously listed as a region of China.
Israel's national airline is just one of dozens of airlines buckling to Chinese pressure to follow this edict. Despite the messy politics here, the reason is mostly financial. Virtually every business in the world is vying to make ties with Beijing these days, which is why the Chinese government has officially threatened a massive punishment of sanctions for those countries who don't list Taiwan as part of modern-day China. The United States government has slammed this effort to bully, coerce, and threaten countries in an effort to essentially whitewash the past. Most American airlines have so far refused to cave into the Chinese demand. But Israel's El Al airline is clearly not looking to rock the boat and jeopardize potential business with the Chinese. Along with Israel, airlines from Canada, Germany, the UK, Finland, Indonesia, and the Philippines, well, they've all followed suit. But despite America's harsh words, most countries are in a lose-lose situation here. International companies are becoming increasingly dependent on the Chinese market, and the severing or even damaging of ties could topple the house of cards. Even though U.S. airlines have resisted, countless other American retailers like The Gap and Marriott have all heeded Beijing's demands in other ways. Curiously, one of the few airlines that hasn't changed their website on the matter is actually Air China. As of this time, at least on its website in Taiwan, Taiwan isn't listed as part of China. When you scroll down on the destination list, you'll find it under Taipei, Taiwan.
Diabetes is becoming a bigger and bigger issue in the West. It remains the 7th leading cause of death in the United States. And as if the impact to health wasn't bad enough, the impact to your wallet can be just as hurtful. According to the ADA, the disease costs the average American over $16,000 per year. Well, here the answer as to why is Tzvi Ben David, the CFO of Dario Health. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so tell us a little bit about the Dario platform and what you guys do to deal with this issue.
We have actually developed a comprehensive management tool for personalized management of diabetes. It includes an application which every user can have on his phone, a very accurate device that is connected to the phone where you can take all the measurements that you need to take, and you manage all which is related to diabetes, your food intake, your insulin, your physical activity, in one place.
And can multiple people access this app? So if your family wants to check on you and make sure everything is okay?
Great question.
Yeah.
If a child has the disease, his mother can download the application, connect to his application. She will get his results. She will get an alert if something happens and he needs assistance.
How did you come up with this idea?
Our CEO, his two parents were affected by diabetes, so it was for him a life mission. And he started this story of developing the entire platform, which today has much more to it, because trying to answer this big expense of $16,000 per user, we are now also offering all those who pay the bills, which is the insurance companies, the employers, and the caregivers. We are actually providing them the ability to monitor online real-time their population. So, for example, an insurance company can now offer its insured a coaching service where they will be remotely monitored, and a coacher, a certified diabetes educator, will be able to look after them 24/7 and help them to improve their results in order to avoid the comorbidities, which are a result of not having your sugar balanced.
Of course. Well, how many people are using Dario right now?
We have in the US already tens of thousands of users. We are selling every day through our digital platform, so more and more people are joining the platform every day. And now we are actually moving to the next stage. Till now we have been doing it only direct to consumer. Next stage is doing it on the wholesale level, as I explained.
Well, for those who are interested, where is this available?
It's available on our store, on our digital store. It's mydario.com.
Mydario.com. Perfect.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us and telling us about this platform.
Thank you.
All right, just a few days ago, we reported about how the Israeli company Mobileye is test driving its autonomous vehicles in Jerusalem before 8 million of them go to market in 2021. Well, we'd like to think that the future is already here, but let's just say it has some hiccups. One of Mobileye's self-driving cars actually just accidentally ran a red light in Jerusalem. And as can be assumed, the company has a bunch of excuses. The flashy vehicle ran a red light during a test drive last week, while a TV crew was inside the car filming the incident.
That's embarrassing. Mobileye claims transmitters put on the car's roof by the TV team had interfered with sensor frequencies, and that's what caused the error. But no matter what the cause, a traffic incident like this could mean that Mobileye still has obstacles to overcome before it can actually market its autonomous vehicles by 2021. Last March, an Uber self-driving car actually hit a woman in the U.S. and killed her. But the co-founder and CEO of Mobileye, Professor Amnon Shashua, was quick to take to the internet to defend the future of autonomous vehicles. He says the woman's tragic death shouldn't be used as an excuse to, quote, stifle important work in the development of self-driving cars. And clearly, accidentally running a red light shouldn't either.
Well, Israeli innovation has done it again. A startup firm based here in Tel Aviv has just brought the entire idea of recycling to the next level. The company has managed to take common household garbage, dirty diapers, banana peels, you name it, and transform it into everyday commercial products like a brand new chair or even fresh water pipes for your home. This could be a game-changing idea. Just think of all the millions of tons of unsorted garbage all over the world. Most of the time, it's just sitting there, stinking up the place. But the Israeli startup UBQ says they can take those mountains of trash and turn them into all kinds of useful stuff. And craziest of all, well, their incredible conversion system requires no additional water, which means the recycling process emits zero toxic air pollution and creates no additional waste. The process itself is pretty genius. First, the trash is sorted so that the recyclable materials like metal and glass are removed. Whatever is left is essentially shredded down or to its rawest possible form, and then it's compounded into little brown pellets. These tiny pellets become the building blocks for whatever you want to make. A chair, a TV stand, maybe even some new eyeglass frames. The team at UBQ, which includes a Nobel Prize winner in chemistry, by the way, already has patents secured for this breakthrough all over the world. So next time you drink from a plastic cup, who knows, you might actually be sipping from what used to be old chicken bones. Not sure how that's supposed to make you feel, but it's good. All right. If you are one of those kids that always loved collecting stamps, it might be time to head to Israel. The World Stamp Championship is coming to Jerusalem from May 27th to May 31st.
All right, if you haven't ever heard of the championship, let's just say it's one of the most prestigious stamp exhibitions in the world. This year around, it will be held in Jerusalem's Convention Center, where 2,000 square meters of building will be covered with stamps, literally. Visitors are expected to come from 50 different countries, all the way from Australia to Spain. Some of the particularly rare collections that will be up for display are competing for prizes, and there will even be a special section called the Honor Wing, where some of the world's greatest collectors will be allowed to present their rarest stamp ever. Some of the selections include the first stamps on letters from the East Indies of the Netherlands, and a stamp on a letter from Paris that was sent in a zinc ball down the Seine to evade the Germans. Even if you don't really care that much about stamps, this is still an event to check out. After all, the World Stamp Championship is really just a massive display of our history.
The Hebrew word of the day is brought to you by IDC Summer Ulpan, open to everyone.
Well, now it's time for our Hebrew word of the day. Stamp collectors are about to flock in droves to Israel for the World Stamp Championship this month. And that's why today's word is bul, which is how you say stamp in Hebrew. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Who even needs a bul or a stamp these days in the age of email and text messages? Well, if you have a soft spot in your heart for snail mail, you'll need a bul or two to send grandma that thank you card. But bul collecting has actually been one of the world's most popular hobbies for hundreds of years now. A few years ago, one bul set a world record as the world's most expensive bul. The legendary British Guyana 1-cent bul sold for a whopping $9.5 billion back in 2014. That is one valuable bul, my friend. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight should be clear to partly cloudy with a low of 71 or 22 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow, there will be little to no change in temperatures, with a high expected to be about 83 or 28 degrees Celsius. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.57 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Israel English News and on Twitter at ILTV News. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for watching.